We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you're watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. The loud knock at the door startled Aaron out of his post-workout days, still glistening with sweat from a brutal weightlifting session. The chiseled ex-Marine threw on a tank top that clung to his muscular frame and went to see who the hell was bothering him at this hour. He barely had the front door open a crack when a massive metal crate was shoved into the entryway by a spindly gray arm. Aaron instinctively reached for a weapon that wasn't there, his military instincts kicking in, a stark reminder of his past. The alien courier, with oversized black eyes and translucent skin, blinked at him impassively. Delivery for Mr. Aaron born of Earth. It said in a flat, digitized voice, its tone utterly emotionless. Sender confirmed as Baron Gore of the Xander Consortium. Please sign here. Still bewildered, Aaron scrawled his name on the glowing screen thrust in front of him. Before he could ask any questions, the courier pivoted and marched away, the door sliding shut behind it with an ominous thud. What the hell? Aaron muttered, running a hand through his short brown hair, his heart pounding, his mind reeling with confusion. The steel crate took up half the cramped living room of his tiny Martian colony prefab unit, its polished surface emblazoned with unfamiliar alien glyphs, a mystery he couldn't ignore. Aaron racked his brain trying to recall a Baron Gore. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but his mercenary days, hopping between star systems, sometimes blurred together, a chaotic tapestry of memories that he struggled to piece together. Had he done a job for the guy at some point? Rescued him from arachnoid raiders? Cleared some space leeches off his pleasure yacht? Maybe. Well, only one way to find out. Aaron pressed his palm against the crate's glowing control panel. With a hiss of releasing pressure, the front panel dissolved to reveal a smaller, inner chamber, a holographic projection flickering to life. The head and shoulders of a portly, lavender-skinned humanoid alien, wearing ornate red and gold robes, appeared in front of him, his jowls quivering with a mix of pomp and self-importance. "Greetings, Mr. Bourne," the Baron said, his voice booming with self-satisfaction. "I trust this message finds you well. You may not remember me, but I certainly remember you. Your bravery in single-handedly fighting off that Joe kill squad on Epsilon Station saved not only my life, but prevented an interstellar diplomatic incident. I never got a chance to properly thank you." Aaron shrugged, his mind racing to remember the details, his past a constant source of chaos. All in a day's work back then. Just his luck to stumble into some alien VIP being attacked in a seedy spaceport bar. Another reminder of the life he had left behind. "To express my eternal gratitude," the Baron continued, his voice laced with a saccharine sweetness that was both cloying and unsettling. "Please accept this token of my appreciation. On my homeworld, there is no greater gift than a Xandarian comfort maiden. I have selected one of surpassing beauty and grace to serve you. Simply speak the words 'awaken,' my darling, to rouse her from stasis." The projection winked out, leaving Aaron gaping at the crate, his mind reeling with disbelief, the words of the Baron echoing in his head like a distorted nightmare. He leaned forward and peered into the inner chamber. Nestled inside, appearing peacefully asleep, was the most stunningly gorgeous alien girl he had ever laid eyes on, a vision of ethereal beauty that seemed almost too perfect to be real. Her skin was a soft mint green, smooth and unblemished, her long, silky hair, the color of seafoam, pulled back in a high ponytail that fell past her shoulders, framing a face that was both delicate and sensual. She wore what could charitably be called a skin-tight bodysuit, but there was so little of it that it seemed designed more to entice than clothe, the shimmery silver material plunging daringly in the front and cut high on her long, toned legs, her arms and midriff left bare, a thick metal choker encircling her slender neck, a reminder of her status as a gift, as a possession, not a person. Aaron felt his pulse quicken, his eyes traveling over her perfect figure, the stirring of desire a sharp, unwelcome intrusion. His thoughts suddenly filled with a dangerous mix of longing and shame. He shook his head, trying to clear the inappropriate thoughts clouding his brain. This was all kinds of messed up. Who the hell gives a person as a gift? But as he gazed at the sleeping girl, her full lips slightly parted, her dark lashes fanned out against her high cheekbones, he couldn't deny the stirring of desire, the primal pull of attraction, his body responding in a way that was both exhilarating and terrifying. It had been a long time since he'd been with a woman. The solitary life of a Martian colonist didn't exactly offer many opportunities for romance. His life a lonely routine of work and workouts, his body starved for human contact. "This is crazy," Aaron muttered, his voice low and desperate, his heart pounding in his chest, his thoughts a dangerous mix of lust and self-loathing. But curiosity overcame his reservations. He had to see what would happen, the temptation too powerful to resist. "Awaken, my darling," he said, feeling slightly foolish, his voice barely above a whisper, the words feeling strangely wrong, his heart clenching with a mixture of guilt and longing. The girl's eyes fluttered open, revealing luminous golden orbs, flecked with amber, her gaze innocent and pure, her beauty as captivating as the stars themselves. She gracefully rose to a sitting position and bowed her head, her movements fluid and effortless, her grace as captivating as her beauty. "Greetings, Master," she said in a melodious voice, her tone both submissive and enticing, her words a dangerous mix of longing and acceptance. "I am Ziria, your humble servant. How may I please you?" Aaron's mouth went dry, his thoughts reeling, his heart pounding in his chest. He was in way over his head. Servant? Master? No way was he comfortable with that kind of arrangement. The whole situation as wrong as it was tempting. Hello, Ziria," he said awkwardly, his voice tight with an uncomfortable mix of desire and shame. "I'm Aaron, not Master, just Aaron. Look, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding." Ziria tilted her head quizzically, her brow furrowed in confusion, her golden eyes wide with concern. "You are displeased with me, Master Aaron? I will endeavor to be better. I am highly skilled in the arts of pleasure and companionship." She rose from the crate in one fluid motion, the bodysuit leaving little to the imagination as she stretched languidly, her movements both graceful and provocative, her body a masterpiece of sensual perfection that made Aaron's eyes nearly pop out of his head. He quickly averted his gaze, feeling the back of his neck grow hot, the blood rushing to his cheeks in a flush of both desire and embarrassment, his body responding in a way that was both thrilling and shameful. No, you're fine, miss," he said hastily, his voice hoarse, his gaze fixed on a point over her shoulder, his every instinct screaming a warning. "It's just on Earth we don't really do the whole gifting people thing. Especially not, for those kinds of purposes." Ziria frowned, looking distressed. Her eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and hurt, her slender figure trembling with a mixture of fear and longing. "You mean you do not want me as your comfort maiden? Have I displeased you in some way?" Her lower lip trembled, a subtle display of vulnerability that tugged at something deep inside him, her hurt feelings cutting him to the bone. Aaron's heart clenched, his resolve faltering, his carefully constructed defenses crumbling under the weight of her vulnerability. "No, Ziria, I'm not displeased with you at all. This is just unexpected." He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing with 1,000 different possibilities. "I'm sure you're very good at your, job, but I don't feel right accepting you as some kind of servant or intimate companion." He rubbed the back of his neck, struggling for the right words, his thoughts a dangerous mix of desire and guilt. Ziria gazed at him with those mesmerizing golden eyes, her expression vulnerable, her voice soft and pleading. "I was created to serve, Aaron," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, her heart heavy with despair. "It is my sole purpose. Without a master, I don't know what I am." Aaron's chest tightened in sympathy, his heart breaking for the young woman who had been so cruelly robbed of her freedom. Tentatively, He reached out and gently grasped her shoulders, marveling at the soft warmth of her skin. His touch hesitant, his emotions a complicated mix of desire and compassion. He looked into her eyes, trying to convey his sincerity, his voice low and earnest. "You're a person, Ziria, not an object to be given away. I can't in good conscience treat you like a possession or a servant. But if you have nowhere else to go, you're welcome to stay here in the guest room until we figure something out. As a friend, not a master." Ziria searched his face uncertainly, her eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and hope. Her world suddenly turned upside down, her carefully constructed reality crumbling before her very eyes. I don't understand, but I will do as you wish." Her voice was soft, her tone submissive, her actions a testament to her programming, to the purpose for which she had been created. Almost impulsively, she pressed her body against his in an embrace, her cheek resting on his broad chest, her touch sending shivers down his spine. "Thank you for your kindness," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, her words a testament to her loneliness and despair. Aaron stood stiffly, hardly daring to breathe, the feel of her supple curves molding to him, sending all his blood rushing south, the temptation almost too powerful to resist. He awkwardly patted her back, trying to maintain his composure, to keep his emotions in check. "You're welcome," he said gruffly, his voice tight with suppressed desire, his heart pounding in his chest. "It's the right thing to do." As he extricated himself and showed Ziria to the small guest bedroom, his mind reeled, his thoughts a chaotic mix of lust and responsibility, his heart pounding with a mixture of guilt and longing. What the hell had he gotten himself into? Rooming with a gorgeous, skimpily dressed alien comfort maiden who seemed hardwired to please him. It was every red-blooded male's fantasy, and a recipe for disaster, a situation as tempting as it was terrifying. He could only hope his good intentions didn't come back to bite him in the ass. But looking at Ziria's perfect, barely clad posterior as she walked ahead of him, her body a constant source of temptation, Aaron had a sinking feeling he was already in way over his head. Aaron woke to the tantalizing aroma of sizzling bacon and freshly brewed coffee, a scent that was both familiar and comforting, a rare sensory pleasure in his monotonous life. He lay in bed for a moment, savoring the unexpected treat, before bolting upright with a startled curse, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing with confusion. Who the hell was in his kitchen? The events of last night crashed over him like a cold wave, the mysterious crate, the holographic baron, the gorgeous alien girl with a disturbingly submissive attitude, a chaotic mix of temptation and responsibility that had left him utterly bewildered. Groaning, Aaron dragged a hand down his face, his heart pounding with a mixture of confusion and anticipation. He'd really stepped in it this time. Throwing on a pair of sweatpants, he padded barefoot out of his bedroom and froze, his jaw dropping, his heart lurching in his chest. Ziria stood at the stove, her green skin glowing in the morning light, her seafoam hair cascading down her back, her movements fluid and graceful, her presence a constant source of temptation. She wore an apron, and apparently nothing else, the strings barely covering her perfect mint-colored hips, her body a masterpiece of sensual perfection that made his heart skip a beat. She turned and beamed at him, spatula in hand, her smile as bright as the morning sun. "Good morning, Aaron," she said, her voice a melodious purr, her gaze warm and inviting. "I hope you slept well. I took the liberty of preparing your breakfast, based on my research into human culinary preferences. I do so want to please you." She bent to retrieve a plate from a low cupboard, giving him an eyeful of her barely concealed curves, her actions both innocent and provocative, her body a constant temptation that made his heart pound in his chest. Aaron's mouth went dry, his thoughts a dangerous mix of desire and responsibility, his body reacting in a way that he had no control over. He knew he should avert his eyes, but he was only human and male, and it had been a very long time, his body starved for the touch of a woman. Ziria straightened and glided over, her movements as graceful as a dancer, offering a heaping platter of eggs, bacon, and toast with a smile that could power a solar grid. I wasn't sure how you liked your eggs, so I prepared them 3 ways. Please, sit. Allow me to serve you. She gestured to the small kitchen table, already set with a steaming mug of coffee, a glass of some sort of juice, and a folded newspaper, her efforts a testament to her desire to please, her actions both heartwarming and unsettling. Aaron blinked. Where the hell had she gotten a newspaper? No one read those anymore. Bewildered, he sank into a chair, his heart pounding, his mind reeling with confusion. Ziria, you didn't have to do all this, he said, his voice tight with a mixture of desire and guilt. I appreciate the thought, but I'm a big boy. I can cook my own breakfast. Her face fell, her luminous eyes dimming, her earlier enthusiasm replaced by a look of distress, her vulnerability a reminder of the responsibility he now felt. You don't like it? I can make something else. I only want to make you happy. A wave of guilt washed over Aaron, his desire to protect her now stronger than his lust, her vulnerability as potent as her beauty. No, it looks delicious, Aaron assured her hastily, his voice laced with a frantic sincerity, his heart clenching with a mixture of guilt and desire. Picking up his fork, he took a big bite of the fluffy scrambled eggs, the flavors exploding on his tongue, his senses overwhelmed by the unexpected culinary pleasure. Wow, these are amazing. Ziria practically glowed at the praise, her eyes wide with delight, her hands clasped beneath her chin in a gesture that was both childlike and captivating. I'm so glad. I used a special Xandarian spice to heighten the flavor. It's said to have stimulating properties. She lowered her lashes coyly, a subtle, provocative action that sent a jolt of desire surging through him. Aaron nearly choked on his eggs, his face flushing red, his body reacting in a way that he had no control over, his mind racing with dangerous possibilities. Was she implying what he thought she was? Down, boy! He scolded his stirring nether regions, his self-control now hanging by a thread, his desire for her a constant, unwelcome companion. He chugged some coffee to cover his reaction, the burn doing little to cool his thoughts, the desire for her now a constant, unrelenting pressure. Ziria watched him eat with rapt attention, her gaze unwavering, her head tilted slightly, a tiny furrow between her delicate brows, her focus now solely on him. Are you certain there is nothing else I can do for you, Aaron? I feel I'm not fulfilling my duties adequately. You're fulfilling them a little too well, Aaron thought wryly, his mind racing with dangerous possibilities, his gaze drifting over her barely clad form, his body responding in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his body responding to her submissive nature with a primal urge that he desperately tried to suppress. He sat down his fork and looked at her seriously, his voice low and earnest, his gaze unwavering. Ziria, we talked about this. You're not a servant or a sex bot. You're my guest. I want you to be comfortable here, not wait on me hand and foot. She bit her lip, her expression a mixture of confusion and longing, her eyes reflecting the conflict she felt between her programming and his expectations, the battle for her freedom, now a battle within herself. But serving you is what gives me comfort, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, her slender shoulders slumping with defeat, her carefully constructed world threatening to fall apart, the programming that defined her now a cage of her own making. It's what I was made for. Without a master to please, I feel so lost. Her slender shoulders slumped, making the apron gap, her vulnerability as potent as her beauty, a temptation that cut him to the bone. Aaron hastily focused on her face, her gorgeous, confused, pleading face, the image searing into his brain, the desire to protect her now stronger than his lust. Oh, hell, he sighed, the fight draining out of him, his heart pounding with a mixture of frustration and longing. Look, if it makes you happy, you can keep cooking breakfast, he allowed, his voice tinged with a reluctant admission, his body responding to her presence with a primal force that he couldn't deny. I ain't going to lie, these eggs are divine. But that's it, okay? No cleaning, no laundry, and definitely no stimulating me. Got it. Ziria nodded, her face visibly brightening, her earlier despair now replaced by a flicker of hope, the possibility of pleasing him a powerful motivator. I understand, she said, her voice lilting, her eyes sparkling with newfound enthusiasm. I will be the best breakfast cook in the galaxy. You'll see. She did a little twirl of excitement, dislodging her apron for a heart-stopping second, before bounding off to the stove, humming, her movements light and graceful, her energy infectious. Aaron exhaled heavily, his body still humming with desire, his mind racing with a mixture of lust and guilt, the responsibility he had taken on now a heavy weight on his shoulders. He picked up the newspaper, hoping the dull newsprint would dampen the images seared into his brain. His resolve now wavering, the temptation he faced now more potent than ever. It was going to be a long day. As the morning progressed, Aaron discovered that keeping a gorgeous, eager-to-please alien girl occupied was a full-time job in itself, her every action designed to serve him, to fulfill her purpose, each a subtle test of his willpower, a constant temptation that he had to fight with every fiber of his being. Ziria flitted about the small prefab, finding a million little ways to serve him, no matter how much he protested, each act a loving gesture that also sent his libido into overdrive, her actions as tempting as they were maddening. She insisted on picking out his clothes, her slender fingers lingering on his chest as she straightened his collar, her touch sending shivers down his spine, her proximity a constant assault on his senses. She hovered at his elbow as he handled some bills on his comm unit, fetching him pens and offering to massage his temples when he frowned, her actions a constant reminder of her submissive nature. She even tried to follow him into the bathroom, innocently offering to scrub his back in the shower, her actions as tempting as they were terrifying, her every move a subtle test of his resolve. That was the final straw. Aaron gently, but firmly, shooed her out, locking the door and leaning against it with a groan. His face buried in his hands, the phantom heat of her touch still lingering on his skin, her spicy sweet scent clouding his head, his desire for her now a constant, gnawing ache. He turned the shower to cold and stepped under the icy spray with a gasp, willing his unruly body to behave, to respond to his will, to resist the siren song of desire that was now a constant companion. This wasn't sustainable. Something had to give. He couldn't keep living in such close quarters with a beautiful, half-naked woman who seemed determined to throw herself at him, her every action designed to test his resolve, to push his limits, to drive him to the very edge of sanity. It wasn't fair to either of them, the situation now a dangerous mix of lust and responsibility. Toweling off, his body still tingling from the icy water, Aaron resolved to have a serious talk with Ziria, to really get through to her that she was free to make her own choices, to be her own person, a battle for her freedom as much as it was a battle for his own self-control. Maybe he could help her find a job, or take some classes, start building an identity beyond a servant, to show her that she was more than just what she had been programmed to be, that she was a person with her own wants, her own needs, her own desires. He was mentally rehearsing his speech as he stepped out of the bathroom, his mind clear, his purpose unwavering, his resolve strengthened by the cold shower, and froze for the second time that day, his heart lurching in his chest. Ziria knelt in the middle of the living room, surrounded by a dozen open storage crates, her gaze wide with curiosity, her face flushed with excitement. She had apparently found his old service footlocker and was currently holding up a lacy red thong, her eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and confusion, her innocence a constant source of temptation. I was just trying to tidy up, she said quickly, seeing his expression, her voice tight with anxiety, the fear of his disapproval evident in her eyes. I didn't mean to pry, but Aaron, what is this tiny garment? Is it some kind of human torture device? Aaron felt his face flame, his cheeks burning red as he strode over and snatched the offending panties from her grip, his heart pounding with a mixture of embarrassment and desire. "That is none of your business," he growled, his voice tight with anger, his gaze averted, his body responding to the image of Ziria handling his lingerie with a primal force that he was desperately trying to control. Stuffing them back in the footlocker, he could still feel the phantom heat of her touch, her spicy sweet scent clouding his head, his desire for her now a constant, gnawing ache, his carefully constructed defenses crumbling under the weight of her innocence and vulnerability. Ziria gazed up at him, her eyes wide with concern, her face a picture of distress, her lower lip trembling, the fear of his anger cutting him to the bone. "Have I angered you, Aaron? I'm so sorry. I was just curious. I want to know everything about you." Her slender hand landed on his thigh as she knelt before him, her touch sending a jolt of desire surging through him, her actions both innocent and provocative, her presence a constant source of temptation. Golden eyes luminous with distress, her body so close, her touch so tempting. Aaron's body lurched traitorously at the submissive picture she made, his desire a constant, unwelcome intrusion. Cursing under his breath, he pulled her to her feet, holding her at arm's length, his heart pounding in his chest, his resolve now teetering on the edge. "Ziria, this has to stop," he said roughly, his voice tight with suppressed desire, his tone sharp and unforgiving, his control hanging by a thread. "You can't keep throwing yourself at me like this. It's not right. You're not my slave or my plaything. You're a person with free will and desires of your own. You need to start thinking for yourself, not just what you think I want." Ziria stared at him, her lips parted, her eyes wide with confusion, her world now a blur of mixed messages and conflicting desires. "But I desire only to serve you, Aaron," she said, her voice a desperate plea, her gaze locking with his, her heart filled with a longing that mirrored his own. "That is my deepest wish. Are you saying you don't want me?" Her voice caught on a sob, her lower lip trembling, her vulnerability as potent as her beauty. Aaron closed his eyes briefly, praying for strength, his heart aching with a mixture of guilt and desire, his carefully constructed defenses crumbling under the weight of her vulnerability. "I'm saying it doesn't matter what I want." His voice was hoarse, his gaze averted, his heart pounding in his chest, his body responding to her proximity with a primal force that he desperately tried to suppress. "You need to figure out what you want, part from me or any master." "I don't know how," Ziria whispered, her voice broken, her heart filled with despair, the weight of her programming now crushing her soul. "I don't know who I am without that." Aaron's heart twisted with sympathy, a wave of protectiveness washing over him, a desire to shield her from the pain and confusion she was feeling. Slowly, carefully, he pulled her into a hug, tucking her head under his chin, his touch gentle and reassuring. She melted against him, her body trembling, her hands fisting in his shirt, her quiet sobs tearing at his heart. "We'll figure it out together," he murmured into her hair, his voice soft, his touch gentle, his heart filled with a mixture of compassion and desire. "I'll help you, Ziria, I promise. You're not alone anymore." He held her like that for a long time, ignoring the demands of his baser instincts, just offering comfort, the promise of companionship, the hope of a better future. When her tears subsided, he set her gently away, his gaze unwavering, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. He smiled, his touch light and reassuring, a promise of friendship that he desperately hoped to keep. "How about we start with a cultural exchange? I'll teach you about human customs, and you can tell me about Xandarian traditions. Like a couple of friends, learning from each other. Sound good?" Ziria wiped her eyes, her face a mixture of uncertainty and hope, the possibility of a life beyond servitude now a flickering light in her heart. She nodded shyly, her lips curving into a small, hesitant smile, her eyes finally free from the fear that had consumed them for so long. "I'd like that very much, friend Aaron." Aaron grinned, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks, a glimmer of hope rising in his chest. Maybe there was hope for them after all. If he could just keep his libido in check and focus on helping Ziria grow as a person, they might just make this crazy situation work. It wasn't going to be easy, with her sexy innocence testing him at every turn, but Aaron was a Marine. He could handle a little temptation for the greater good. His resolve strengthened by his desire to protect her, to help her become her own person. His promise to her now a vow he desperately wanted to keep. Hopefully. Okay, let's go over this one more time, Aaron said patiently, his voice tinged with exasperation, his gaze locking with Ziria's, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear as he adjusted Ziria's new outfit. A carefully chosen ensemble that was designed to be both practical and modest, yet still managed to highlight her natural beauty, a constant reminder of the challenge he faced. What's the golden rule for interacting with humans in public? Ziria bit her lip, her brow furrowed in concentration, her eyes wide with a mixture of anxiety and determination. Don't offer to pleasure them orally? Aaron choked, his face flaming, his body responding in a way that he had no control over, the image of her lips on him sending a jolt of desire through him. Ziria, no. I mean, yes, definitely don't do that. But the main thing is, keep my clothes on at all times. He finished hastily, his gaze fixed on a point over her shoulder, his voice tight with a mixture of embarrassment and desire. Ziria recited dutifully, her voice soft and earnest, her tone a mixture of determination and apprehension, her words a testament to her desire to please, to follow his instructions, to learn about the world that was so new and confusing to her. Even if they ask nicely? Exactly. Aaron nodded, relieved. It had taken some doing, but he'd finally convinced Ziria to wear something a bit less provocative for their outing to the nearby human settlement. His efforts now a testament to his resolve to protect her, to help her build her own identity, to escape the shackles of her programming. She now sported a cute sundress and sandals, her glorious hair tucked under a wide-brimmed hat to hide her pointed ears. She could almost pass for a regular girl, a regular, heart-stoppingly beautiful girl. Aaron amended silently, trying not to ogle the way the dress hugged her curves, her beauty as irresistible as it was dangerous. He shook himself, his gaze hardening, his heart pounding in his chest, his focus now shifting to the task at hand. Focus, Marine. He muttered under his breath. All right, I think we're ready, he said bracingly, his voice laced with a mixture of confidence and apprehension, his gaze locking with hers, his mind racing with 1,000 different possibilities. Just remember, stick close to me, don't wander off, and if anyone asks, you're my cousin, visiting from out of town. Ziria frowned, her lips pursed, her brow furrowed in confusion, her gaze searching his. I thought I wasn't supposed to lie? Isn't that one of your human rules? Aaron sighed, his resolve faltering, his plan now complicated by her naivete and honesty, her innocence a constant source of both amusement and consternation. It's complicated. Sometimes a small lie is okay, to protect someone or avoid awkward questions. Just follow my lead. Okay? Ziria brightened, her earlier confusion replaced by a spark of determination, her gaze locking with his. I will follow you anywhere, Aaron. You know that. Aaron's heart did a little flip at her earnest declaration, his defenses crumbling once again, her innocent trust a sharp reminder of his responsibility to her, to protect her from the dangers that lay ahead. Stupid heart, he muttered under his breath, trying to ignore the way his body responded to her every word, every look. He took a deep breath and led the way out of the prefab, his steps measured and purposeful, his focus unwavering. Ziria, all but skipping at his heels, her eyes wide with wonder, her excitement as infectious as her beauty, a constant reminder of the challenge that lay ahead, her presence a constant temptation that he would have to fight every step of the way. The journey to the settlement was uneventful, just a short hop on the maglev, the landscape blurring past as they traveled towards his past, His old life a constant reminder of the dangers he had left behind. His heart now filled with a mixture of hope and fear. Ziria spent the whole ride plastered to the window, her eyes wide with wonder at the passing Martian landscape, her excitement infectious, her childlike joy making Aaron see his dusty red home in a new light, a landscape that now seemed less desolate, more alive with possibility. But as they stepped onto the bustling streets of New Ares, a wave of trepidation washed over him, his heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and dread. The world he was about to enter both familiar and unknown. Ziria was drawing stares left and right, and not just for her beauty, her actions and movements as captivating as her ethereal appearance, her presence an anomaly that drew attention wherever she went. She moved with an otherworldly grace, her head swiveling to take in every sight and sound with avid curiosity, her innocent gaze taking in the wonders of the settlement with a mixture of awe and confusion. It was like chaperoning a unicorn through Times Square, he thought wryly, his mind racing with the possibilities of disaster, his responsibility to protect her now a heavy weight on his shoulders. Aaron put a protective hand on the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd, his touch a reassuring presence, his every action designed to shield her from the dangers that he knew were lurking around every corner. First stop, close, he murmured in her ear, his voice low, his tone measured. We need to get you some things of your own so you're not always borrowing mine. His desire to buy her clothes for her, to provide for her, now a powerful motivator. Ziria leaned into his touch, her body instinctively seeking the closeness he offered, her smile wide and bright, her gaze filled with affection. You're so thoughtful, Aaron, she said, her voice soft and earnest, her hand slipping into his with a trust that was both heartwarming and terrifying. But I like wearing your clothes. They smell like you. Aaron stumbled, his face heating, the casual intimacy of her words sending a jolt of desire surging through him, her body a constant source of temptation, her scent now a constant reminder of her presence in his life. Down, boy, he admonished his rising libido, his body reacting in a way that he desperately tried to control. This was a family outing, a chance for her to experience his world, not an opportunity for a roll in the hay. They hit up a few shops, Aaron picking out some simple, functional outfits while Ziria gravitated towards anything sparkly or revealing, her taste as bold as her personality, her desire for beauty now a constant challenge for him. Aaron had to gently steer her away from a few truly indecent items, ignoring the knowing looks from the salesgirls, each glance a reminder of the challenge he faced, the constant temptation that he had to fight with every fiber of his being. Loaded down with bags, they stopped for lunch at a casual cafe, the noise and chatter a stark contrast to the quiet of his prefab, the world outside his own now a constant source of temptation. Ziria studied the menu with fierce concentration, her lips moving as she sounded out the unfamiliar words, her brow furrowed with a mixture of confusion and determination. What's a burger? She asked, her nose scrunched adorably, her eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. Is it an animal? A plant? Aaron grinned, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks, her innocent curiosity a reminder of the simple pleasures he had taken for granted, her presence in his life now a constant source of joy. A bit of both, usually. It's a sandwich with meat and veggies and bread. Here, I'll order for us both. Trust me, you'll love it. When the food arrived, Ziria examined her burger with scientific intensity before taking a dainty bite, her every action a testament to her curiosity and her desire to learn. Her eyes went wide, and she let out a moan that made Aaron's pants feel suddenly tight, her reaction a mixture of pleasure and surprise, her innocence a constant source of temptation, her body a constant reminder of the danger he faced. Oh, my stars, she mumbled around the mouthful, her voice a mix of pleasure and wonder, her cheeks flushed with excitement. This is amazing. The flavors, the textures. How have I never had this before? She took another huge bite, ketchup smearing adorably on her cheek, a messy delight that only made her more captivating. Aaron chuckled, his heart pounding with a mixture of affection and desire, his resolve wavering as he reached over to wipe it off with his thumb, his movements automatic, his touches gentle as a feather. Without thinking, Ziria froze, her golden eyes locking on his, her body still, her breath held in anticipation. Slowly, deliberately, she turned her head and drew his thumb into her mouth, her tongue swirling over the digit, her actions both innocent and provocative, her touch sending a jolt of desire surging through him, her mouth a beacon of temptation, her proximity a constant threat to his self-control. Aaron's breath caught, heat searing through him, his body reacting in a way that he desperately tried to suppress. For a moment, he forgot where they were, the rest of the world fading away, their connection a powerful, magnetic force that pulled them together, their bodies humming with a primal energy. There was only Ziria's hot, soft mouth, her eyes molten with promise, her touch a constant source of temptation. A pointed cough snapped him out of it. Their waitress stood by the table, one eyebrow arched knowingly, her expression a mixture of amusement and judgment, a subtle reminder that they were not alone in this world. Aaron snatched his hand back like it had been scalded, his face burning red, his heart pounding with a mixture of embarrassment and desire, his body reacting to the moment in a way that he desperately tried to control. He felt his neck flush scarlet as he fumbled for his wallet, his actions clumsy and rushed, his carefully constructed composure now completely shattered. "Just a check, please," he choked, avoiding Ziria's gaze, his voice hoarse with a mixture of desire and embarrassment. Ziria blinked at him, her head tilted in confusion at his sudden discomfort, her innocence a stark contrast to the turmoil within him. Aaron avoided her gaze as he paid and hustled them out of there, his pulse still pounding, his mind racing with 1,000 different possibilities, his body reacting to her with a primal force that he desperately tried to suppress. "Get it together, Born," he scolded himself, his hand clenching into a fist, his resolve weakening with every passing moment, his desire for her now a constant, unwelcome companion. She didn't mean anything by it. She's just naturally sensual, doesn't know any better. But as they walked through the settlement, Ziria's hand tucked trustingly in his, a touch that was both innocent and provocative. Aaron couldn't help but wonder, what if her innocent advances weren't so innocent? What if, in her own fumbling way, Ziria was trying to show him how she felt? Her every action a subtle attempt to express the longing that he knew was burning within her as much as it was burning within him? Aaron shook the thought off like an icy spray of water, his resolve hardening, his focus shifting to the task at hand. Even if that were true, he couldn't take advantage. Ziria was too naive, too pure. She needed a friend and a guide, not a horny bastard salivating after her tight little body. Determined to keep things friendly, Aaron steered them toward the central plaza where a street fair was in full swing, his resolve now a shield against his own desires, his actions now designed to protect her innocence and her freedom. Ziria's eyes lit up at the colorful booths and lively music, her excitement as infectious as her smile, a wave of tenderness washing over him as he watched her, her laughter and delight a constant reminder of the joy she had brought into his life. She tugged on Aaron's hand, pointing and exclaiming at every new marvel, her childlike wonder a refreshing contrast to his own jaded cynicism. Aaron let himself get swept up in her infectious delight, his heart lighter than it had been in years, his gaze softer, his touch more gentle. He showed off his ring-toss skills to win her a stuffed animal, a fluffy pink creature with oversized eyes, and bought her a swirly cone of ice cream that turned her tongue blue, her delight at the small gifts a reminder of the joy he had found in giving. Ziria laughed and clapped, drawing smiles from everyone around them, her presence a beacon of joy and innocence in a world that was often cruel and unforgiving, her laughter a sound that melted his heart, his every instinct screaming to protect her, to cherish her, to keep her safe. It hit him then, watching her twirl with carefree abandon, her hair flying around her head, her laughter echoing through the plaza, how young Ziria really was, not in years maybe, but in experience. She'd been so sheltered, so limited, Her life dictated by the rigid rules of her programming, her every action designed to serve and please a master. This was probably the first time she'd ever just had fun, without worrying about serving or pleasing anyone, her joy untainted by any ulterior motive. Something tender unfurled in Aaron's chest, a feeling that was both protective and possessive, a desire to keep her safe and happy, his resolve weakening in the face of her innocence and vulnerability. He wanted to give her more moments like this, wanted to show her all the joys and wonders the universe had to offer, wanted to make her smile like that every damn day. The knowledge that he had the power to make her happy now a driving force, a powerful pull on his heart, his mind racing with dangerous possibilities. Oh hell, he was in trouble, he thought wryly, his heart clenching with a mixture of hope and fear, the feelings he had developed for Ziria now a force more powerful than he could control. Lost in his thoughts, Aaron didn't notice a large, rowdy group of men until they were practically on top of them, their presence a sudden, unwelcome intrusion into his carefully constructed world, their actions a threat to everything he had come to cherish. Miners, from the look of their rough clothes and crude catcalls, and they were all staring at Ziria like a pack of hungry dogs eyeing a bone, their eyes full of lust and disrespect, their actions as crude as their words. Aaron stepped instinctively in front of her, his body tensing, his military instincts kicking in, his protective nature now a powerful, driving force, his desire to keep her safe now his primary concern. He blocked their view, his back as rigid as steel, his voice a low, dangerous purr. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" he asked coldly, his hands clenching into fists, his gaze like ice, his body ready for action. The biggest one, a beefy redhead with a neck tattoo, leered at him, his eyes full of lust and disrespect, his words laced with a mocking tone. "Just admiring the scenery, pal. Ain't often we see a piece that fine around these parts. Why don't you share the wealth? Let us show her a good time." Ziria peeked out from behind Aaron, her eyes wide with curiosity, her innocence a sharp contrast to the predatory gaze of the men, her actions a test of his resolve, a challenge to his commitment to protect her. "A good time? Oh, are you offering pleasure services as well?" she asked, her voice as sweet as honey, her lashes fluttering innocently. "How lovely, but I'm afraid I must decline. Aaron is the only one I wish to serve." Her words a testament to her submissive nature, a constant reminder of her past programming. But Aaron's heart did a little flip at her earnest declaration, her loyalty a powerful and intoxicating force that made him feel a surge of protectiveness. Aaron closed his eyes briefly, his heart pounding, his mind racing with a dangerous mixture of anger and desire, his thoughts a chaotic mess of guilt and responsibility. Oh, forsake! The miners hooted and elbowed each other, their eyes full of lust and disrespect, their jeers a constant reminder of the threat they posed, their crude intentions now exposed for all to see. "Pleasure services? Eh?" The redhead scoffed, his tone mocking, his words laced with a mixture of lust and contempt. "Damn, and here I thought she was your cousin the way you were hanging all over her. Guess you're just another John, like the rest of us." "Watch your mouth," Aaron growled, his fists clenching, his eyes like steel, his heart pounding in his chest, his anger now a cold, burning fire that threatened to consume him. "The lady's not for sale. Now back off before this gets ugly." But the men were too far gone, drunk on cheap whiskey and their own inflated egos, their minds clouded by lust and disrespect, their actions now a threat to everything he held dear. They circled around Aaron and Ziria, caging them in, their numbers a show of dominance, their intent as clear as it was despicable. "Lady," he says, "I know a whore when I see one." The redhead scoffed, his voice coarse, his gaze full of malice, his actions a cruel reminder of the dangers that lurked in this world, his words a direct attack on her worth, a testament to his own depravity. "Probably thinks she's too good for the likes of us. Is that it? We'll see about that." He made a grab for Ziria and found himself flying through the air as Aaron's fist connected with his jaw, the sound of the impact as satisfying as it was brutal. a release of the anger and fear that had been building within him. The other miners roared in outrage, charging in mass, their bodies a blur of flailing limbs and angry shouts, their actions a testament to their own depravity. But Aaron was ready for them, the cool focus of combat flowing through him, his military training kicking in, his mind clear, his actions deliberate and precise. Everything else faded away. The noise of the crowd, the fear, the anticipation. There was only the task at hand, the need to protect Ziria, to keep her safe from harm. He dodged a wild haymaker and drove his knee into his attacker's gut, dropping him like a sack of cement, his movements swift and brutal, his anger now a weapon against those who would seek to harm her. A bottle smashed against his shoulder, and he hissed in pain, retaliating with a vicious elbow to the bottle wielder's teeth, his actions as brutal as they were necessary, his heart pounding in his chest, his every instinct screaming to protect Ziria. They just kept coming, an endless tide of flailing limbs and angry shouts, each blow a reminder of the danger they faced. Aaron took a few hits, his lips splitting, his ribs aching, but he gave as good as he got, his body acting on instinct, his military training taking over, his desire to protect Ziria now a driving force, an energy that fueled his every action. He'd be damned if he let these bastards lay one grimy finger on his girl, he thought, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind filled with a possessive anger, his every action now a testament to his love for her, his girl. The thought blazed through him, hot and fierce and possessive, the realization of his feelings like a physical blow, a truth he could no longer deny, his heart now completely and utterly hers. He renewed his attack with a roar, a primal expression of his anger and protectiveness, felling the last of the miners with a devastating uppercut, his movements as swift and brutal as they were necessary. Panting, knuckles bruised and bloody, Aaron spun to check on Ziria, his heart pounding with fear, his thoughts racing with 1,000 different possibilities, his need to protect her now more powerful than ever, and found her standing calmly behind him, not a hair out of place, her expression as serene as a goddess, her actions a stark contrast to the chaos that surrounded her, her power a force to be reckoned with, her calm demeanor a chilling reminder of her true nature. And at her feet, 3 groaning miners clutched at their crotches, writhing in agony, their faces contorted with pain, their bodies a testament to her unexpected power. Aaron gaped at her, his jaw slack, his eyes wide with shock and awe, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and admiration. Ziria shrugged delicately, her expression as calm as before, her voice as melodious as ever. Xandarian pleasure training includes a module on disabling attackers. The gonads are a most effective weak point. She looked at him, her eyes filled with concern, her brow furrowed with worry, her touch gentle and tentative. "Are you all right, Aaron? You're bleeding." Gingerly, she touched his split lip, her eyes wide with concern, her touch a gentle reminder of the love and tenderness that lay beneath her submissive nature, a force that was as intoxicating as it was terrifying. Aaron caught her hand and squeezed it, his gaze locking with hers, his heart pounding with a mixture of love and admiration. "I'm fine, sweetheart," he said, his voice hoarse, his gaze unwavering, his heart filled with a mixture of love and protectiveness. "Takes more than a few drunk jackasses to keep me down. I'm just glad you're okay. When that guy grabbed for you," he shuddered, his body trembling with a mixture of rage and fear, the memory of the near attack a sharp reminder of the dangers he had to protect her from. Ziria stroked his cheek, her touch as light as a feather, her eyes soft with understanding, her gaze unwavering, her words as soothing as a balm to his wounded soul. "My brave protector," she murmured, her voice low and earnest, her touch sending shivers down his spine. "I knew you would keep me safe. That's why She trailed off, ducking her head shyly, her cheeks flushed with a delicate pink. Aaron's heart stuttered, his gaze locking with hers, his thoughts racing with 1,000 different possibilities. "Why you what, Ziria?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous, his heart pounding with anticipation, his every instinct telling him that something profound was about to happen. His carefully constructed defenses crumbling under the weight of her innocence and vulnerability. She peeked up at him through her lashes, her golden eyes luminous with a mixture of hope and longing, her lips trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Why I feel so happy and fluttery when I'm with you, like I'm flying, but also falling. She paused, her breath catching, her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and fear, the knowledge that she was experiencing something profound now as clear as the stars above. Is that normal for friends? Aaron swallowed hard, his heart pounding with a mixture of desire and fear, the realization that he loved her now a truth he could no longer deny, his feelings as overwhelming as they were terrifying. Cupping her face in his hands, he leaned in until their foreheads touched, his heart pounding in his chest, his gaze locking with hers, his emotions now raw and exposed. "No, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice low and earnest, his touch as gentle as a feather. "It's not. That's how you feel when you're falling in love." Ziria's eyes widened, her lips parting on a soft O, a realization dawning on her face that was as beautiful as it was terrifying. Slowly, so slowly, she raised on her toes and brushed her mouth against his. A butterfly kiss that set Aaron's blood on fire, her touch sending shivers down his spine, her innocence a powerful and intoxicating force. "Then I think I'm falling in love with you, Aaron Bourne," she whispered, her voice as soft as a summer breeze, her gaze locking with his, her heart open, her soul completely exposed. "Is that okay?" Aaron let out a shuddering breath, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind reeling with a mixture of fear and hope, his carefully constructed world collapsing under the weight of her love. He knew it was wrong, knew he should put a stop to this before it went too far, his logic screaming at him to protect her, to keep her from the dangers that he knew were lurking within him. But looking into Ziria's hopeful gaze, her face filled with a mixture of love and anticipation, he couldn't find the strength to deny her, to deny himself. "Yes, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice as soft as hers, his heart pounding in his chest, his body trembling with anticipation, his carefully constructed world now completely and utterly changed by her love. "It's more than okay, because I'm falling for you too. So hard and fast it scares the hell out of me." Ziria's smile was brighter than the noonday sun, her face radiant with happiness, her golden eyes sparkling with love and adoration, her touch sending shivers down his spine. She wound her arms around his neck and kissed him again. A kiss that was sweet and hot and hungry, her passion as powerful as his own, her touch a constant source of temptation, his desire for her now an all-consuming force that threatened to overwhelm him. Aaron groaned into her mouth, his hands spanning her waist, every nerve ending lighting up like a plasma cannon, his body responding to her every touch with a primal force that he could no longer control, his emotions now raw and exposed. A pointed cough interrupted them, a sharp, unwelcome intrusion into their world, a reminder that they were not alone, that there were still others waiting for them in this world. Aaron jerked back, his face flushed, his heart pounding with a mixture of desire and embarrassment, his emotions as exposed as his body. He saw a stern-faced sheriff eyeing the carnage of groaning miners with a raised brow, his gaze a mixture of suspicion and annoyance, his actions a reminder of the consequences of their actions. "You folks want to tell me what happened here, or should I just haul you all in and let you explain it to the judge?" Aaron sighed reluctantly, disentangling himself from Ziria, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing with 1,000 different possibilities. "No need for that, officer. Just a little misunderstanding. No harm done. We were just leaving." The sheriff frowned, his gaze unwavering, his expression a mixture of skepticism and resignation. But he nodded, his tone laced with a subtle warning. "See that you do. And next time, try using your words instead of your fists." "Yeah." Aaron sketched a sarcastic salute, his heart pounding with a mixture of adrenaline and desire. his hand reaching for Ziria's, a promise of safety and protection in the touch. He took her hand and led her swiftly away before the situation could escalate. His desire for her now as strong as his desire to protect her, his every action now driven by the love that was growing stronger with every passing moment. Ziria squeezed his fingers, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of excitement and admiration, her innocence as disarming as her beauty, her presence now a constant source of joy. "That was so exciting," she said, her voice filled with wonder, her cheeks flushed with excitement, her words a testament to her childlike wonder. "Is courting always like this for humans? Defeating rivals, proclaiming your feelings, kissing passionately while others look on? How thrilling." Aaron huffed a laugh, his heart lighter than it had been in years, his gaze softened by her innocence, her presence a constant reminder of the love he had found, the hope for the future that now burned so brightly in his heart. "Hate to disappoint you, sweetheart, but no, this was a special case. Normally, courting is a lot more boring. Dinner, dancing, maybe a moonlit stroll if you're feeling wild." Ziria sighed dreamily, laying her head on his shoulder, her touch as light as a feather, her proximity as comforting as it was tempting, her actions now a testament to her growing affection for him. "It all sounds wonderful as long as I'm with you. You'll show me, won't you, Aaron? Show me everything about human love." Aaron's heart clenched, his body responding to her words with a mixture of tenderness and desire, his resolve wavering, his careful control now threatened by the love he felt for her, his body responding to her with a force that he desperately tried to suppress. He knew he was no good for a sweet girl like Ziria. He was a jaded ex-soldier with more baggage than a luxury liner. He'd only end up hurting her, holding her back. But he was weak, so weak for this gorgeous alien girl who looked at him like he hung the moons, his love for her as all-consuming as it was terrifying. He couldn't give her up, not now that he'd had a taste of what it felt like to be loved by her, to be accepted for who he was, flaws and all. Pressing a kiss to her hair, he murmured, his voice low and earnest, his every action now driven by his desire to protect her, to cherish her, to make her happy. "I'll show you everything, sweetheart. We'll learn together. Just be patient with me, okay? I'm kind of new at this whole love thing myself." Ziria lifted her head, her smile brighter than a supernova, her golden eyes sparkling with affection, her touch sending shivers down his spine. "We have all the time in the universe, Aaron. I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me now." Aaron grinned, his heart lighter than it had been in years, the future suddenly filled with endless possibilities, the promise of love and companionship a powerful motivator, his resolve now strengthened by the love that he felt for her, his every action a testament to his devotion, a promise he would keep with every fiber of his being. "I can think of worse fates," he said, his voice hoarse, his heart pounding in his chest. "Come on, let's go home. I'm dying to get you out of that dress." Ziria giggled, a pretty blush staining her cheeks, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of mischief and desire, her hand sliding into his, her touch a constant reminder of the temptation he faced, her presence now a source of both joy and madness. Hand in hand, they made their way back to the maglev station, ready to embark on a whole new adventure together, their future now a tapestry of possibilities, their hearts intertwined in a love that transcended worlds, a love that was as unexpected as it was powerful. "Ziria, sweetheart, you don't have to do that," Aaron said patiently, trying not to ogle his girlfriend's perky behind as she bent over to pick up his dirty socks. The sight of her curves now a constant source of temptation, her every move a challenge to his self-control. Even in baggy sweatpants, Ziria's curves were a force to be reckoned with, a masterpiece of sensual perfection that made his heart skip a beat. She straightened, clutching the socks to her chest like precious treasures, her eyes wide with a mixture of love and devotion, her actions a testament to her submissive nature, her desire to serve him as compelling as it was maddening. "But I want to, Aaron," she said, her voice soft and earnest, her eyes glowing with affection, her every word a reminder of the responsibility he now felt. Serving you brings me such joy, and your socks are so pungent. It's like having a piece of you with me always. She took a deep sniff of the offending footwear, her eyes fluttering shut in bliss, the look on her face a mixture of adoration and pure, unadulterated delight. Aaron felt his face flame, his cheeks flushing red as he reached for her, his desire now a primal force that he desperately tried to suppress, his body reacting in a way that he had no control over. Damn. But his girl was a freak in the best possible way. Striding over, he plucked the socks gently from her grip, his touch as soft as a feather, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind a chaotic mix of desire and tenderness. He tossed them in the hamper, his movements as precise and controlled as his emotions were chaotic. I appreciate the thought, sweetheart, but remember what we talked about? You're not a servant anymore. You're my equal, my partner. He drew her into his arms, his heart pounding, his hands trembling as he held her close, the feel of her body against his a constant temptation. I want to take care of you, not the other way around. Ziria pouted, her full lips pursed temptingly, her eyes as wide and luminous as the stars themselves. The look on her face a combination of longing and confusion. I know, she said, her voice low and earnest, her gaze locking with his, the battle between her programming and her own free will a constant struggle. It's just hard to break the habit. On Xander, a female's worth is measured by how well she serves her male. It's all I know. Aaron softened, his gaze locking with hers, his heart breaking for her, his desire to protect her, to help her become her own person, now a driving force, powerful pull on his heart. He drew her closer, his touch as gentle as a whisper, his voice filled with a mixture of love and compassion. I understand, baby, but you're not on Xander anymore. Here, a female's worth is measured by who she is, not what she does. And you, Ziria, are the most amazing, beautiful, special female in the whole damn universe. No matter what. Ziria melted against him, nuzzling into his neck, her body trembling with a mixture of emotion and longing, her heart open, her soul completely exposed. You always know just what to say to make me feel cherished, Aaron. I'm so lucky to be yours. Aaron's heart stuttered, his arms tightening around her, his gaze softening with tenderness, his desire for her now a constant, overwhelming force. I'm the lucky one, sweetheart. I still can't believe you chose me, out of all the males in the galaxy. Ziria lifted her head, her golden eyes glowing with love and mischief, her lips curving into a playful smile. Well, you were the only one to receive me as a gift. The universe knew what it was doing when it delivered me to your doorstep. My Aaron. Aaron chuckled, his heart lighter than it had been in years, his gaze filled with love and adoration. Remind me to send Baron Gore a fruit basket, he murmured into her hair. That crate was the best thing that ever happened to me. Ziria giggled, her laughter as infectious as her smile, her eyes shining with happiness, her touch a constant reminder of the love they shared, a bond that was stronger than anything he had ever known. Even better than the galactic lottery. I saw the ticket on the fridge. You could be rich. Aaron shrugged, unconcerned, his heart already rich with a love that was more valuable than any material wealth. Baby, I'm already rich in all the ways that matter. I've got you, don't I, my Ziria? Smooth talker, my Aaron. Ziria purred, her voice low and seductive, her body molding against his with a seductive grace. Going up on her toes, she nipped at his jaw, her actions both playful and provocative, her touch sending shivers down his spine. If you keep saying things like that, I might just have to show you how rich I can make you feel. Aaron groaned, desire spiking through him as Ziria's clever tongue traced the shell of his ear, her touch sending a jolt of electricity through his body, her every action a test of his resolve. Sweetheart, you keep that up, we'll never make our dinner reservation, he said, his voice hoarse, his body reacting in a way that he desperately tried to suppress, her every touch a constant temptation. Ziria pulled back, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and curiosity. Reservation? Are we going out? Like a real human date? She bounced on her toes, her excitement making her even more adorable than usual. Her presence a constant source of joy, her every action a testament to her innocence and her openness to experience the world, to truly live her life, free from the constraints of her past. Aaron grinned, his heart pounding with love, his desire for her now an all-consuming force, his body aching to make her his own. Tucking a strand of seafoam hair behind her pointed ear, he promised, his voice low and seductive, his gaze unwavering, his heart filled with a mixture of desire and devotion. That's right, baby. I'm taking my best girl out for a night on the town. Wining, dining, the whole shebang. You up for it? Oh yes, Ziria squealed, her eyes wide with delight, her body trembling with anticipation, her touch now a spark that ignited his soul, a reminder of the passion that burned between them, a love that was as exciting as it was terrifying. I can't wait to do the dating with you, my Aaron. I'll go put on my best dress. She scampered off to her room, which was really more of a formality at this point since she spent every night cuddled up to him like a sexy barnacle. Her presence a constant source of temptation, her absence now a reminder of the loneliness he had known for so long. Not that he was complaining, Aaron amended silently, his heart pounding in his chest, his body responding to the thought of her with a primal force that he desperately tried to suppress. Waking up with Ziria in his arms was quickly becoming his favorite thing in the universe. Each morning a new beginning, a promise of endless possibilities. Shaking his head fondly, Aaron went to change into his own date duds, his body still humming with desire, his mind racing with thoughts of her, his heart filled with a love that was as overwhelming as it was terrifying. He even broke out the fancy cologne he'd been saving for a special occasion, his actions now driven by his desire to show her the best of his world, to give her a glimpse of the love and passion that burned within his heart. His longing for her now a constant, gnawing ache. Tonight was all about showing Ziria a good time, human style. When Ziria emerged from her room, Aaron's jaw nearly hit the floor, his heart skipping a beat, his body responding with a primal urge that he desperately tried to suppress, his careful composure now shattering under the weight of her beauty. She wore a slinky red dress that hugged her every curve, the neckline plunging daringly to showcase her perfect breasts, her every move a reminder of her irresistible sensuality, her every look a temptation that threatened to overwhelm him. Her hair was piled up in an artfully tousled updo, tendrils curling around her pointed ears, her smoky eyeshadow making her golden eyes pop, her full lips painted a glossy scarlet, her entire being a testament to her ethereal beauty, a vision of sensual perfection that made his heart race and his blood burn. She looked like every man's wet dream come to life, a temptation that he knew he could never resist, a desire that threatened to consume him entirely. Aaron swallowed hard, trying to get his tongue working again. His thoughts a jumbled mess of lust and adoration, his desire for her now an all-consuming force. "Sweetheart, you look incredible," he managed hoarsely, his voice tight with suppressed desire, his gaze locking with hers, his heart pounding in his chest, his body trembling with anticipation. "I'm going to be beating the other males off with a stick tonight," he said wryly, his attempt at humor failing to mask the possessive jealousy that coursed through him. Ziria dimpled at him, doing a little twirl, her laughter as light as a breeze, her body a masterpiece of sensual perfection that made his heart skip a beat. The dress rode up, flashing a tantalizing glimpse of her toned thighs, a tease that sent a jolt of desire surging through him, the desire for her now as strong as his desire to protect her. "You like it?" she asked, her voice as sweet as honey, her lashes fluttering innocently. The salesgirl said red is the color of passion for humans. "I wanted to stoke your fires, Aaron." Oh, she was stoking them, all right, Aaron thought wryly, his mind racing with 1,000 different possibilities, his desire for her now a constant, gnawing ache, his body reacting in a way that he desperately tried to control. He felt like a hormonal teenager again, ready to bust out of his pants at the slightest provocation, her every move a test of his self-control. Gritting his teeth, his resolve wavering, his heart pounding in his chest, he offered Ziria his arm, a familiar gesture that now seemed charged with a dangerous current of desire. Consider me well and truly stoked, baby. Now let's get out of here before I say screw dinner and just throw you over my shoulder, caveman style. Ziria giggled, tucking her hand into his elbow, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of mischief and love. So forceful, my Aaron. I like this caveman side of you, but I also want to experience the whining and dining. Lead the way, my brawny beast. Aaron laughed, his heart lighter than it had been in years, his body humming with desire, his mind racing with thoughts of her, his gaze softening with tenderness as he escorted his alien beauty out the door, his heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and dread. His promise to show her his world now as much a source of hope as it was of fear. His heart now completely and utterly hers. Tonight was going to be perfect. Or not. Aaron stared in consternation at the haughty maitre d', who was eyeing Ziria like she was something nasty he'd scraped off his shoe. The man's dismissive tone a clear sign of his bigotry and close-mindedness. I'm sorry, sir. The man sniffed, his voice laced with barely contained contempt, not sounding sorry at all. But we have a strict dress code here at Shamara. No exotic entertainers allowed, if you catch my drift. Aaron saw red, his anger flaring up like a wildfire, his heart pounding in his chest, his body tensing, his protective instincts kicking in with a force that threatened to overwhelm him. How dare this pompous ass imply that his Ziria was some kind of escort? His fists clenched, his jaw tightened, his mind racing with 1,000 different ways to tear the man apart. He opened his mouth to give the jerk a piece of his mind, to unleash a tirade of anger and profanities. But Ziria beat him to it, her voice as smooth as silk, her actions a testament to her growing confidence. "Excuse me, sir," she said sweetly, batting her lashes, her eyes wide with a mixture of innocence and mischief, her tone as smooth as honey. "But I think there's been some misunderstanding. I'm not an entertainer, exotic or otherwise. I'm Aaron's girlfriend, and we have a reservation. Unless you'd like me to call your manager and explain how you just insulted a paying customer." The maitre d' paled, his eyes widening in alarm, his carefully constructed facade of aloof indifference crumbling before her calm, assertive demeanor. He stammered an apology, his earlier arrogance replaced by a desperate desire to appease her. No, that won't be necessary, miss. My deepest regrets for the confusion. Right this way, please." He practically fell over himself, ushering them to a prime table, even pulling out Ziria's chair for her, his earlier contempt now replaced by a desperate attempt to make amends, his arrogance now a distant memory. Aaron bit back a grin, his heart swelling with pride, his chest bursting with a mixture of love and admiration. That was his girl, standing up for herself like a boss, her poise and grace a testament to her strength and her growing self-confidence. As they perused the menus, Ziria leaned over to whisper conspiratorially, her lips close to his ear, her breath sending shivers down his spine. "Did I do the assertive human female right, my Aaron?" she asked, her voice low and seductive, her eyes wide with a mischievous delight, her actions now a constant reminder of the woman she had become, her beauty now as captivating as her power. "I've been practicing my withering stare in the mirror," she added, her voice laced with amusement, her touch sending a jolt of desire through him. Aaron chuckled, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks, his gaze soft and tender, his love for her as overwhelming as it was terrifying. Squeezing her hand, his touch as gentle as a feather, he murmured, "You nailed it, sweetheart. I'm sorry that guy was such a dick to you. Some humans can be real narrow-minded about interspecies relationships." Ziria waved a dismissive hand, her gaze unwavering, her confidence now as strong as his own, her past a fading memory, her future now her own to shape. "I don't care what some stuffy old man thinks of me. she said, her voice clear, her gaze unwavering, her words now a testament to her newfound strength. All that matters is what you think, my Aaron. And I know you love me, green skin and all. Damn right I do, Aaron said fervently, his voice low and earnest, his touch as gentle as a whisper, his gaze unwavering. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles with a possessive tenderness, his heart pounding in his chest, his love for her now an all-consuming force. I love everything about you, Ziria. Your skin, your smile, your mind, your heart. You're perfect to me, inside and out. Ziria's eyes shimmered with emotion, her gaze locking with his, her lips trembling with a mixture of love and adoration. Oh, Aaron, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, her heart filled with an overwhelming affection that mirrored his own. I love you too, so much it feels like my heart might burst. I never knew happiness like this was possible before I met you. Wait, hearts, plural? Aaron blinked, his brow furrowing in confusion, momentarily thrown by her casual mention of multiple organs. His engineer's mind suddenly consumed by the technicalities of Xandarian physiology. A brief distraction from the wave of desire that had threatened to consume him. Just how many organs was his girl packing? He shook it off. It didn't matter, he thought wryly, his heart pounding with a mixture of love and acceptance. He'd love Ziria even if she had tentacles. Which she didn't, he was pretty sure. His gaze fixed on her perfect figure, his heart filled with a love that was as overwhelming as it was all-consuming. The rest of dinner passed in a happy blur of laughter, conversation, and footsie under the table, their bodies humming with a mixture of desire and anticipation, their every interaction a spark that ignited the love between them, a reminder of the bond they had formed. Ziria moaned orgasmically over every bite of her meal, drawing envious stares from the other diners, her enjoyment as blatant as it was endearing, her reactions always honest and pure, untainted by any pretense or artifice. Aaron just smiled smugly, secure in the knowledge that he was the only one who got to hear those sexy sounds in private, the anticipation of the night ahead a constant, unwelcome companion. When the check came, Aaron insisted on paying, his possessive instincts kicking in, his every action designed to protect her, to provide for her. Waving off Ziria's protests, he declared with a wink, "What kind of gentleman would I be if I let my lady pick up the tab? Nah, baby, this is my treat." Ziria smiled mistily at him, her eyes glowing with affection, her lips curving into a seductive purr, her every action a reminder of the passion that burned between them, her words now laced with a teasing tone that made his heart pound in his chest. "My gentleman," she purred, making the words sound positively filthy, her touch a spark that ignited his soul, her body a constant source of temptation. Aaron shifted in his seat, his pants growing uncomfortably tight, his body responding in a way that he desperately tried to control. They strolled, hand in hand, back to the maglev station, Ziria chattering excitedly about all her favorite parts of the evening, her every word a reminder of the joy she had found in his world, her wonder and enthusiasm as infectious as her smile. Aaron just listened, content to bask in her joy, his every instinct screaming to protect her, to cherish her, to keep her safe and happy, her laughter as infectious as her beauty, her presence a constant source of joy. As they waited for their train, a group of rowdy young men sauntered over, openly leering at Ziria, their eyes filled with lust and disrespect, their actions now a direct threat to everything he held dear, their presence an unwelcome intrusion into his carefully constructed world. Aaron tensed, his fists clenching, his body ready to throw down if necessary, his military instincts kicking in, his heart pounding with a mixture of anger and protectiveness, his every move now driven by his desire to shield her from harm. "Not this again," he muttered under his breath, his jaw tight, his gaze hard, his body ready for action. "Hey, baby," the ringleader called, his voice thick with a mixture of lust and arrogance, his gaze as brazen as his words, his actions a testament to his depravity. "Why don't you ditch the fossil and party with us? We'll show you a real good time, unlike Grandpa there. Ziria turned to face them, her smile sugar-sweet, her eyes as wide and innocent as a child's, her actions a testament to her growing confidence. How kind of you to offer, boys, she said, her voice as smooth as honey, her tone as innocent as an angel. But I'm afraid I must decline. You see, Grandpa here is the only one who can satisfy me. He's ruined me for other men with his big, thick, throbbing heart. She delivered the last word with a saucy wink, leaving no doubt as to her meaning. Her innocent sensuality now a weapon as powerful as any fist, the blatant sexuality of her words a shock to the system, a deliberate choice to push their buttons, to show them that she was not an object, but a person with her own desires and preferences. The men gaped at her, stunned, speechless, their jaws hanging open, their eyes wide with a mixture of shock and disbelief, their carefully constructed world now crumbling before her. Aaron bit the inside of his cheek, fighting back laughter, his heart swelling with pride, his admiration for her now as strong as his love. Better luck next time, lads, he said cheerfully, throwing an arm around Ziria's shoulders, his voice laced with a mocking tone, his gaze unwavering, his heart swelling with pride. You heard the lady, she's all mine. Ziria cuddled into his side, shooting the men a cheeky finger wave as the maglev pulled up, her actions both innocent and provocative, her presence as captivating as her beauty, her love for him now a powerful and intoxicating force. Bye-bye now. Thanks for playing. As the train doors closed on their gobsmacked faces, Aaron finally let the laughter loose, his heart pounding in his chest, his love for her as overwhelming as it was terrifying, his admiration for her strength and her wit now as strong as his desire for her beauty. Holy sweetheart, that was savage, he exclaimed, his voice shaking with a mixture of laughter and admiration, his heart lighter than it had been in years. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Ziria grinned impishly at him, walking her fingers up his chest, her gaze as playful as it was seductive. Don't worry, my Aaron. Your thick, throbbing heart is the only one for me. She paused, her eyes sparkling with mischief. In fact, I think I'd like a private demonstration of its impressive capabilities when we get home. If you're up for it, that is. She punctuated her words with a meaningful glance at his crotch, her every action a subtle test of his resolve, her every look a reminder of the desire that burned between them. Aaron groaned, desire slamming into him like a freight train, his body responding in a way that he desperately tried to control, his carefully constructed composure now shattered beyond repair. Capturing her wandering hand, he brought it to his lips, nipping at her fingers, his gaze locking with hers, his heart pounding in his chest, his every instinct screaming to protect her, to cherish her, to keep her safe and happy. Oh, I'm up for it, baby. I'm so up, I'm practically in orbit, he said, his voice hoarse, his gaze unwavering, his desire for her now an all-consuming force. You better hold on tight, because I'm about to rock your world like a cosmic storm. Ziria shivered, her pupils blown wide with want, her lips parting on a soft moan, her every move as seductive as it was intoxicating. My, such bold promises, she whispered, her voice low and seductive, her gaze locking with his, her heart pounding with anticipation, her body trembling with a mixture of desire and fear. You better deliver, space cowboy, or I might just have to punish you. Aaron's blood ignited at the images her words conjured, his desire for her now a raging inferno, his body aching for her touch. Ziria in nothing but that damn collar, her eyes wide with desire, her lips red and swollen, crooking an imperious finger at him, ordering him to his knees, to worship her with his tongue until she screamed his name. The image as tantalizing as it was terrifying, his thoughts a dangerous mix of lust and adoration. The maglev jerked to a halt, snapping Aaron out of his fevered fantasies. His mind racing with a mixture of desire and guilt, the fantasy world he had created now colliding with the reality of their present situation. He realized, with a start, that they were back at their stop. When had that happened? Ziria tugged at his hand, giggling, her eyes sparkling with mischief, her lips red and swollen, her actions both innocent and provocative. Come on, my Aaron. Take me home so I can thank you properly for a wonderful date. I want to show you just how grateful I am to be yours. Aaron let her lead him off the train, grinning like a fool, his heart pounding in his chest, his desire for her now an all-consuming force, his actions now driven by his love, his need to protect her, to cherish her, to make her happy. Oh, he'd take her home. All right, and he'd spend the rest of the night showing her that he was just as grateful to be hers. His love for her now a beacon that guided him through the darkness, his every action a testament to his devotion. Cultural differences be damned. He and his alien sweetheart were a perfect match, in all the ways that mattered, and he couldn't wait to spend the rest of his life exploring every single one of them. Aaron, can I ask you something? Ziria's voice was hesitant, almost shy, as she traced idle patterns on Aaron's bare chest, her touch as light as a feather, her actions both innocent and provocative. They lay tangled together in the afterglow, their skin cooling, their pulses slowing, the room filled with a comfortable silence, a testament to the intimacy they now shared, their bodies now as familiar as their souls. Aaron pressed a kiss to her hair, smiling into the silky strands, his heart full with a mixture of love and adoration, his gaze tender and adoring. Of course, sweetheart, you can ask me anything. You know that. Ziria propped herself up on one elbow, her body a vision of sensual perfection that made his heart skip a beat, her gaze locking with his, her curious golden eyes searching his, her expression as innocent as a child, her desire to learn about his world now a constant pull on his heart. And why were those men at the bar so excited when your friend Jax offered to buy them for everyone? If you won the dart game. Aaron choked on air, his face flushing red, his body tensing, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing with a mixture of horror and amusement, his thoughts a chaotic mix of desire and embarrassment. He sat bolt upright, dislodging Ziria from her cozy sprawl, his careful composure now completely shattered. What? Where did you hear that? Ziria blinked at him, her head tilted, her eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. At the pub, when you were introducing me to your marine buddies. Remember? You were all playing darts and making bets. Jack said if you hit the bullseye, drinks were on him, and he'd throw in a for everyone. The other men cheered quite enthusiastically. Is this some kind of special drink? Can we get one sometime? Aaron scrubbed a hand over his face, torn between laughter and mortification, the memory of the lewd male banter now a cruel reminder of his responsibility to protect her innocence, his careful efforts to shield her from the more crude aspects of his world now a failure. Trust Ziria to pick up on that particular bit of male banter. He should have known better than to bring his innocent alien girlfriend to a rowdy night out with the boys, his actions now a source of shame and self-loathing. Taking a deep breath, his gaze locking with hers, his voice low and controlled, his heart pounding in his chest, he prepared to explain. Ah, no, sweetheart, isn't a drink, he said, his voice tight with a mixture of embarrassment and desire, his carefully constructed composure now teetering on the edge. It's a sexual thing, a slang term for when someone uses their mouth to pleasure a man's private parts. Ziria's eyes widened, comprehension dawning on her face. A slow, dawning realization that was both captivating and terrifying. Her innocent nature now a source of both temptation and guilt. Her openness to experience now his greatest challenge. Oh, she said softly, her gaze locking with his, her voice a low, seductive purr. We have a term for that on Xander, too. We call it polishing the spear. It's a very important skill for a comfort maiden to master. She lowered her lashes, peeking up at Aaron through the thick fringe, her lips curving into a tempting smile, her actions as innocent as they were provocative. I could polish your spear any time you like, my Aaron. I've been told I'm quite talented with it. Aaron bit back a groan, desire spiking through him at the mental image her words conjured. his body reacting in a way that he desperately tried to control, his careful composure now a distant memory. Down, boy, he admonished his body, his desire for her now a constant, unwelcome companion, his self-control now teetering on the edge. This was supposed to be a serious conversation, he reminded himself, his carefully constructed resolve wavering. Clearing his throat, he took Ziria's hands in his touch as gentle as a feather, his gaze unwavering. I appreciate the offer, baby, really I do, but you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with, okay? I'm not with you because I expect sexual favors. I'm with you because I love you. Plain and simple. Ziria's expression softened, her eyes going liquid with emotion, her lips curving into a tender smile, her words a testament to her devotion, her touch as gentle as a whisper. I know that, my Aaron, and I love you too, more than all the stars in the sky. Her voice trembled with emotion, her eyes wide with love, her every action a reminder of the powerful bond they shared. I want to give you pleasure because it brings me joy, not because I feel obligated. My body, my heart, my everything, it's all yours, freely given. Aaron's chest tightened, humbled and awed by the depth of her devotion. His love for her now an all-consuming force, his carefully constructed defenses crumbling under the weight of her innocence and vulnerability. Cupping her face in his hands, he brought their mouths together in a slow, sweet kiss that said everything he couldn't put into words, a testament to their love, their souls intertwining, their hearts beating as one. When they parted, Ziria was flushed and glassy-eyed, her lips kissed swollen, her body humming with a mixture of desire and tenderness, her touch now a source of both comfort and temptation. Aaron couldn't resist stealing one more peck before settling back against the pillows and tugging her into the curve of his body, his heart pounding with a mixture of love and anticipation. So what else is on your curious mind, my insatiable little alien? He asked, his voice low and teasing, his hand gently stroking her cheek, his touch as light as a feather, his love for her now an all-consuming force. I know that thing can't be the only thing you're wondering about, he added with a wry grin. Ziria giggled, nuzzling into his neck, her breath warm on his skin, her touch sending shivers down his spine. Well, now that you mention it, I was also wondering about some of the other things your friends were saying tonight. She paused, her voice hesitant, her earlier confidence now replaced by a flicker of insecurity, her questions now a test of his love, a challenge to his ability to protect her from the ugliness of the world. Like when Jax asked if I had a sister, and Trip said he'd tap that green ass in a heartbeat. What did he mean by that? Is tapping some kind of human greeting? Should I have let him tap me? Aaron growled, his arms tightening around her possessively, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing with a dangerous mix of anger and protectiveness, his desire to shield her from harm now a driving force. Hell no, baby, he said, his voice tight with anger, his gaze like ice, his body ready for action. Tap that ass is another crude way of saying he wanted to have sex with you, which is never going to happen. Not while I'm breathing. Ziria wriggled contentedly in his embrace, her touch as gentle as a feather, her gaze as loving as her smile, her confidence now a mirror of his own, her body molding against his, her presence a source of both comfort and temptation. She seemed unfazed by his anger, her innocent nature now a shield against the ugliness of the world. Don't worry, my Aaron, she said softly, her voice a soothing balm, her hand resting over his heart. Your friends are handsome males, but they've got nothing on you. I prefer my men brawny, brooding, and just a little bit caveman. Aaron snorted, giving her a playful squeeze, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks, her innocence a source of amusement, her love a constant reminder of the joy she had brought into his life. Gee, thanks, he said wryly, his gaze softening with tenderness, his laughter a release of the tension that had been building within him. I think they call that a backhanded compliment. They lay in a comfortable silence for a while, just enjoying the closeness, their bodies intertwined, their hearts beating as one. the love they shared now a tangible force that filled the room, a promise of a future that was as limitless as their love for each other. Then Ziria piped up again, her voice hesitant, her earlier confidence now replaced by a flicker of fear, her questions a test of his love, a challenge to his ability to accept her for who she was, flaws and all. "Aaron?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper, her gaze locking with his, her eyes wide with a mixture of longing and vulnerability. "There's one more thing I'm curious about, but I'm afraid you might get upset if I ask." Aaron frowned, his heart pounding in his chest, his resolve hardening, his desire to protect her from the pain and confusion of the world now his primary concern. Shifting to look at her, he met her gaze with a tender smile, his love for her now a promise he would keep with every fiber of his being. "Hey, none of that," he said softly, his voice as calm as he could make it, his touch as gentle as a feather. "You can always talk to me about anything. I promise I won't get mad." "What is it, sweetheart?" Ziria bit her lip, her eyes downcast, her earlier confidence now replaced by a sudden shyness, her innocence now a shield against the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. "It's just some of the things the men were saying tonight. It made me wonder." She paused, her gaze meeting his, her eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty, her heart filled with a vulnerability that touched him to the bone. "Have you been with a lot of females before me? Am I good enough compared to them?" She paused, her voice catching in her throat, tears welling in her eyes. "Tripp said human women are wildcats in bed, and I don't even know what a wildcat is." To Aaron's horror, her eyes welled with sudden tears, her words cutting him to the bone, her vulnerability a stark contrast to the strength she had shown earlier. Cursing himself for 10 kinds of a fool, he gathered her close, rocking her gently, his arms wrapped around her like a protective shield, his desire to protect her from the pain and confusion she was feeling now more powerful than ever, her trust now a sacred responsibility. "Oh, baby, no, don't cry. Please don't cry," he murmured, his voice hoarse with emotion, his gaze as tender as his touch, his actions a testament to the depth of his love. "You're perfect, you hear me? Absolutely perfect. I don't care how many wildcats or tame house cats I've been with in the past. None of them could hold a candle to you, Ziria." Ziria sniffled damply into his chest, her hands fisting in his shirt, her body trembling with a mixture of fear and hope. "Really?" she asked, her voice small, her gaze pleading, her eyes wide with a mixture of longing and vulnerability. "You're not just saying that to make me feel better?" Aaron tipped her chin up, his heart pounding, his gaze locking with hers, making sure she could see the sincerity in his eyes, the love that he felt for her now an all-consuming force. Really, I've never felt like this about anyone before, Ziria. What we have is special, unique. Comparing you to other females would be like comparing a supernova to a flickering candle. There's just no contest." Slowly, tentatively, Ziria's lips curved into a watery smile, her eyes shimmering with a mixture of hope and relief, her gaze locking with his, her vulnerability now transformed into a beautiful trust, her heart now open, her soul completely exposed. "A supernova truly?" she whispered, her voice soft, her touch as gentle as a feather, her body trembling with anticipation. "Oh, my Aaron, you say the most beautiful things. I'm sorry I got so emotional. It's just, I want to be everything you need, everything you desire. I don't ever want you to regret choosing me." Aaron kissed her softly, reverently, his touch as gentle as a whisper, his actions a testament to the love and devotion he felt for her, his heart pounding with a mixture of tenderness and desire, his commitment to her now stronger than ever. "Not possible, sweetheart," he thought wryly, his gaze fixed on her beauty, his heart as full as it was terrified. "You're already more than I could have ever dreamed of, and I plan on spending the rest of my life showing you just how much you mean to me, in every way I know how." Ziria melted against him, sighing into his mouth, her body trembling with a mixture of desire and anticipation. her every touch a reminder of the love that had transformed his life. I like the sound of that. And just so you know, I plan on being your personal wildcat, house cat, and every other kind of cat you can imagine. Meow. She punctuated the saucy words with a little growl and a playful nip to his jaw, her innocent sensuality a constant temptation, her body a source of both comfort and desire, her actions a reflection of the woman he had come to love, a unique and beautiful soul that had forever changed his life. Aaron laughed, desire and adoration mingling in a dizzying cocktail, his body reacting in a way that he desperately tried to control, his love for her now an all-consuming force. Careful, kitten. Keep that up, and I might just have to make you purr, he said, his voice hoarse, his gaze lingering on her lips, his touch as gentle as a feather. Ziria grinned, a flash of white teeth and a wicked promise, her eyes sparkling with desire, her every action a reminder of her growing confidence, her playful nature a constant source of delight. Ooh, yes, please, she whispered, her voice low and seductive, her touch as gentle as a whisper, her every action a deliberate provocation that made his heart pound in his chest. Make me purr, my big, strong space tiger. I want the whole station to hear me roar. Aaron's blood ignited at the image her words conjured. Ziria in nothing but that damn collar, crooking an imperious finger at him, ordering him to his knees to worship her with his tongue until she screamed his name. His desire for her now a raging inferno. His carefully constructed composure now shattered beyond repair. He smirked, rolling her beneath him in one smooth motion, his movements as fluid as they were deliberate, his desire as strong as his resolve to love and protect her, his heart as open as his soul. Challenge accepted, baby. Challenge enthusiastically accepted. Sometime later, as they lay spent and sated in a tangle of sheets, their bodies intertwined, their skin still warm from their lovemaking, their hearts beating as one, Ziria lifted her head from Aaron's chest, her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and satisfaction, her lips curving into a sleepy smile. I think I'm getting the hang of this whole human mating ritual thing, she said softly, her voice a low, contented purr, her words laced with a mixture of innocence and seduction. That was wow. I'm not sure I'll be able to walk tomorrow. You really are a wild cat, my Aaron. Aaron chuckled, too drained to do more than press a clumsy kiss to her hair, his body still humming with the aftermath of their passion, his heart full with a mixture of love and tenderness. Right back at you, baby. I think you woke the neighbors with those last few roars, not that I'm complaining. He added wryly, his gaze tender, his touch as gentle as a whisper. I plan on making you scream my name on the regular. Ziria purred, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated against his chest, sending shivers down his spine, her body melting against his, her touch as soothing as it was tempting. Promises, promises. I'll hold you to that, space tiger. But for now, I need to recharge. You've thoroughly depleted my energy reserves. In the best possible way. Aaron yawned, tucking her more securely against him. His heart full, his body finally relaxed, the tension he had been carrying now gone, replaced by the comforting weight of her presence. Ditto, sweetheart. Let's get some shut-eye. I want to be in peak condition for round. What are we on now, 12? Ziria giggled drowsily, her laughter a sweet melody that warmed his heart. I lost count, but I'm game for a rematch whenever you are. After a quick power nap, anyway. Good night, my Aaron. Love you. Love you too, baby. More than anything. He whispered, his heart overflowing with love, his body humming with a delicious weariness, his soul finally at peace. As he drifted off to sleep, with his own personal supernova in his arms, Aaron marveled at the unexpected turns his life had taken. His past a distant memory, his future now filled with endless possibilities. If someone had told him a few months ago that he'd be head over heels for a green-skinned alien girl with a penchant for inappropriate questions and a tongue that could win awards, he'd have laughed in their face, his jaded cynicism now a thing of the past. But now he couldn't imagine his life without Ziria in it. She brought light and laughter and love to every corner of his existence, filling up the empty spaces he hadn't even known were there, transforming his world from a desolate wasteland into a vibrant and colorful paradise. Sure, their relationship wasn't conventional. His past now a reminder of what he had overcome. Their future now a testament to his strength and his courage. They'd faced plenty of challenges. Their path to love now a journey full of obstacles. Raised eyebrows, navigating the tricky waters of interspecies romance. But Aaron knew, with bone-deep certainty, that it would all be worth it, that the challenges they faced would only strengthen the bond they shared, that the love they had found would be a light that would guide them through even the darkest of times. Because Ziria was worth it. Worth anything and everything he had to give, a treasure he had found when he least expected it, a love that had transformed his life forever. He'd never been the hearts and flowers type, never saw himself as the settling down kind. His past a reminder of the pain and loss he had endured. But with Ziria he could see it. A future, a family, a forever kind of love, his heart now open, his soul finally at peace, his life finally complete. And come hell or high water, nosy friends or narrow-minded strangers, he was going to fight for that future. For her, for them, their bond a force that would withstand any storm, their love a beacon that would guide them through the darkness. Because in a vast, cold universe, they'd found something rare and precious, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of connection, a love that transcended worlds, a bond that would never be broken. And Aaron would be damned if he let anything or anyone tear them apart. His resolve as strong as his love, his commitment as absolute as the stars in the sky. Ziria murmured in her sleep, her voice as soft as a summer breeze, one leg slinging possessively over his hip, her body a constant source of comfort, her presence a reminder of the love they shared. Aaron smiled into the darkness, his heart so full it felt fit to burst, his gaze soft and tender, his love for her now as infinite as the universe itself. Yeah, he was one lucky son of a... And he planned on spending the rest of his days proving it. One wildcat roar at a time.